Hey guys, Dark Wolf here, and today I'm also making I'm doing a different what if than what I did last time. I'll still be continuing the other series that I'm going to be doing, like the what if Deku have fire and ice wolf quirk. But just for me, I've been seeing barely any of these types of what if either, so I thought, this would be an interesting type of what if. And I thought, hey, let's try it out. And this is what if Deku had a panther quirk. And as you guys know, panthers are really smart. So I'm going to let him have the Black Panther quirk. It's not going to be like the Marvel Black Panther or anything like that. It's just like the Cat Panther type deal. And I guess we can call this part 0 or part 1 for this. Because this is basically when Deku's just starting off and being born. He had like most baby panthers and all that, they are really small, and he basically took the size of the panther when being born, and like the size of the tail and the ears when he was a baby. So he was decent size as baby. He was really small. He had a little cat tail type deal in ears, making him a bit different than the rest of the kids, I guess you could say. Well, just for the sake of this video, we'll say Inko had Panther quirk, and it was like passed down in family type deal, instead of her levitation type quirk. And let's say Hitachi, the person who we'd never seen in the movie, let's say he still lives with them, and he has like a shadow quirk. And just so we have like a base idea, let's say that they're both Inko and Hitachi is like, I guess we could put like heroes instead of like how they are right now in like the canon series, where they're basically Inko's more worried about Zuko than ever and all that type deal. But instead we'll basically make it like Inko's more smarter, agile as well. She is a hero. Let's just say she's like the mm, number 6 hero. And Utachi with a shadow quirk. We'll put him like under. I don't know who the number 3 hero is. So let's just say he's the number 3 with his shadow quirk. And then let's just say they were in like a type of quirk marriage, like Endeavor was with what was her name? I was just talking about it in my head. Um, we'll just call her Miss Todoroki until it comes back to my head. And and yeah, so that was happening, and they're still quirk marriaged, and then they actually started falling for each other after they had Zuko. And Zuko, let's just say he doesn't just have the Black Panther quirk, but he doesn't know how to use the shadow quirk that well. Like, he knows how to manipulate people's shadows, but for only for like a few minutes, let's say about a minute. Like he can depending on the size of the person, he can manipulate their shadow. And right now he's just 3 for this. Like he's a 3-year-old who can manipulate someone's shadow for like a minute at max. So if he wanted, like if someone was in dire need, he could basically connect his shadow to their shadow and move back. Like if they're about a bullet's about to hit them, he can basically control the shadow, make them move back, and make them move back to normal, and then leave their shadow if he wants, and all that. So once he was about 4, and he's been going to the daycare for a while, people's noticed him. He's actually a really fast for his age and really intelligent and quick and smart and strong type deal. He is really smart, and they're just talking. Him and Bakugo was just talking, and Bakugo basically says he got his quirk today, like earlier this morning. And well, they he explains how his quirk works with his connects to his mom and his dad's, how his dad sets off explosions, and his mom's like gasoline type sweat basically works together to make the explosion strong. Yeah, and then he starts saying, with this quirk I might be able to become the number one hero. And while Zuko, being amazed by his quirk, says that his quirk he doesn't have any too much clue about it besides his panther look is what Bakugo basically thinks won't make him that well of a hero. And so yeah. But when Hitachi goes and basically takes Zuko to the doctor to see what his quirk really fully could do and how it would work. Cause let's just say for the sake of the video, they don't have that same doctor that they have in canon, where he tried this quirk still in Doctor, who's in the background of the anime. And so yeah, so basically they don't have that doctor. They have a doctor that can basically see, let's say about a few years into the future, almost like the hero Night Eye, but not like the whole future. Like he can only see up to like a few years. He can't see up to basically to until their body basically dies out. And how it goes. He can just see some of their options and see how his quirk will work out. And he explains how he has a really strong panther like quirk and a shadow quirk. So they're thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then he also comes out with asking them what their quirks was. Inko says she has panther like abilities, and and Hishashi I guess his name is basically saying he has a shadow type quirk. And basically the doctor says, well, he has both of those and one extra part of it. He can use the shadows not just to manipulate others people's shadows, but manipulate his own. If he wants to, he can jump into his own shadow, hiding and moving like a shadow, making people harder to spot him, and he can't get injured in shadow state. If he really chose to, he can turn his own body into a shadow by making his shadow come out and engulfing him, and he'll still have control of his body. The shadow is basically just like, as most shadows are, if light reflects, the shadow goes away, but Azuku will still be there, making life harder for everyone. So, yeah, making basically any villains who try to hit him won't be able to do it. And if they think light will basically get rid of him, every shadows can't go away by the light. The shadow will always be there, even when the light's shining, making everyone's life harder to try to hurt Azuku. And they also explain how his panther quirk is also a type of mutation, how it's just not the ears and tails. He has claws at his age, like a panther. Like his he has claws and his nails are basically retractable. Like they look really short and all that, but he has a little bit of hair on his hands, and the his nails can extend. Like they start coming out of the underneath the skin, and they're extending, and they're really sharp. Like he keeps them like his mom helps keep them tiny and sharp in case something happens. And Azuku, as you know, most Black Panthers are black with has black hair type deal. So Azuku's hair is black with like a glimmering type um greenish color. Like his green isn't like in canon. It's more like it's shiny dark. It's like a dark green, and it's really shiny. So yeah, making they can see him if they focus their eyes on him. But if a light shines onto him, you'll be able to see him because his eyes will glow, as most cats when you shine any light at them. Well, he also has the ability to turn into the panther and still use his shadow. When they did the test, he turns into like a little panther cub. I don't know what they call their baby panthers and all that off the top of my head. So yeah, he's able to turn into a panther cub, but it takes a lot of his energy to do it. But deeper in the future, they say that he might be able to do it on basically command, making him where he'll never run out of energy by turning into the panther. The reason it wears him down now is because he hasn't done it fully yet. He's only been able to turn parts, like, let's say about 4 parts of his body into, like, the panther. Like, if he wants to, he can turn his legs and his arms, his chest, his arms, his head, stuff like that. Any part he wants, he can turn into a panther, but only 4 pieces of it. And he has to focus really hard, and that gets him really tired out. And then he goes tells Bakugo his quirk and how it works. And they also, let's just say for the name of this quirk, we'll call it the Shadow Panther quirk. Shadow Panther is the name of the quirk. And he explains how the quirk works to Bakugo. Bakugo, being a little intrigued about this quirk, tries to see if Izuku wants to fight. Izuku saying, how about we do this not on school premises? So, once school ends, they go to the school park, not the school park, but the park near the school. They're hanging out, and Bakugo says, okay, are you ready to fight? And and it's like basically a type of training fight. They wasn't gonna hurt each other too badly, to the state where they can't really get themselves healed or if they have a broken bone. And they're just doing this on the basketball, like the concrete on the basketball type field, I guess. I don't know what they call it. And they're just doing that, and they're going at it. Izuku, being smart for his age, knows basically most of Bakugo's moves by seeing him train and try to use his quirk. So basically, Izuku's dodging and weaving, making it nearly impossible for Bakugo to get at least a hit. The only thing that's been almost hitting him was his explosions when they go off, like almost skinning him. But Izuku, basically being agile, dodges them real quickly. And that goes on until Izuku gets tired and starts, well, getting revved up a bit more. He jumps into Bakugo's shadow, making Bakugo confused on where he went. And then Izuku, being how he is in this, is sly and sneaky, so he's making Bakugo stand still. Bakugo questioning what happened, and then remembering that Izuku's quirk lets him go into the shadows. He tries moving his arms, but Izuku ain't letting him do anything without him leaving that shadow. So basically, Izuku's staying in the shadow, and Izuku can't get hurt in the shadow state, but whatever he does in the shadow state will still affect whoever he's controlling in the shadow. So if he's hitting his body in the shadow, anyone he's controlling the shadow will feel the pain, and that's getting Bakugo really not really revved up, but in a lot of pain. So Izuku jumps out of the shadow and tells them, I guess I win, type deal. Izuku wasn't trying to be cocky or anything, he was just saying it in like a nice tone. And Bakugo basically saying, yeah, I guess you win this time. Basically getting a little infuriated on how he basically jumped into the shadow and beat him up from there. Izuku, ever since that day, him and Bakugo has been training, and just giving you a heads up, Izuku and Bakugo are basically the two strongest kids there, and they're only basically 5. Izuku's a bit older than Bakugo, let's say by a few months, and, well, they get to high school finally. And we'll just say for this, Izuku is 17 and Bakugo is 16. They're just a little bit under. It's not really close to Bakugo's birthday, but it was probably, let's say, in the halfway point. And yeah, they're just chilling and all that, hanging out after class. And then they basically, Izuku says his mom needs him at home because she has to go on a mission and he has to take care of the groceries and all that. And well, he taking the shortcut home goes under the bridge, as you know in canon, and gets attacked by the sludge villain. Sludge villain basically looking at Izuku, because Izuku is wearing not like a decently tight t-shirt where they can see his six-pack at, like he was working out a lot. Bakugo doesn't really have a six-pack, but he's still getting there. While Izuku's basically almost to an 8-pack. And yeah, and the sludge villain thinking, he would be a good host, and tells Izuku to give the sludge villain his body. While Izuku's thinking of this, thinking that he's going to try to take his body away from him, and Izuku's not going to have any way to survive this, jumps into the sludge villain's shadow, and turns the sludge villain into a humanoid state, where he can still, basically, he ain't sludge no more, he's what he used to be like before the sludge quirk activated type deal. He's a human now, and doesn't have the sludge on him. The sludge villain thinking, I'm a human again, but he still can activate his quirk, but Izuku basically having control of his quirk as well inside of the shadow, because when he's in the shadows, he's able to basically control whatever the person could do, and basically, if they have like Bakugo's explosion quirk, he can activate the explosions by doing basically whatever they use to activate it. Like he has control of the body and its motions, and it not really its mindset. They have their own mind. Like they can still think and try to talk. They can talk, but they can't control most of their body. Like they can't control their quirk. They can't control anything except their thought and whatever they say in their mind. Since Izuku's part of their shadow, he can hear, giving Izuku multiple strategies. And, well, All Might pops out of the sewers, trying to chase that sludge villain, saying, have you seen the sludge villain, man? Type deal, but in a kind, nice manner. And he makes the man confess that he was the sludge villain. And Izuku pops out of the shadow, and the sludge villain goes back to normal and makes his quirk activate when Izuku's jumping out. All Might collecting the sludge villain in a bottle, because as I said, Izuku can connect shadows together, holding them still, and forcing the sludge villain into the bottle, helping All Might out. Izuku, looking at All Might in astonishment, at the end of it, All Might says, hello, what is your name? And he says his name is Izuku Midoriya, and that reminds him of the third best hero, the Shadow Hero, and the fifth best hero, the Panther Hero, saying, you're Inko and Itachi's boy, right? And he says yes, and all that, getting him really excited about he finally getting to meet one of his favorite heroes and asking if he could be a hero as well. Instead of trying to become the number one hero, he just wants to be a hero. He doesn't really care about being the number one fully. But he'll be happy if he becomes the number one. But he knows that will take a lot of training and not just by saying words. All might be saying yes with his quirk he could be a hero. Izuku asks for an autograph. Actually, two autographs in his name and Bakugo's. He gives he gives Izuku two autographs, and Izuku goes to Bakugo's house the next day, giving him the All Might autograph that he got for him from All Might. Bakugo, being amazed on how he got it, says he ran into All Might when a villain tried to attack him, cause the Sludge villain never left the bottles. Like he couldn't, because All Might screwed the bottle, like he tightened the bottle up, but he didn't use as much force, and Izuku never jumped on his leg, making the bottle fall. So, yeah. So, the Sludge villain gets captured and all that, and sent to prison. Well, a prison, but they freeze the Sludge villain, keeping him in his own mind, making it impossible for the Sludge villain to basically fully liquefy himself and get out of the bars. They froze him instead and keeping him in his own consciousness. So the Sludge villain's alive, but frozen. So we won't... Why am I talking about the Sludge villain? This is about Zugu. Well, he gets home, tells his parents what happened as well. Their parents being a little worried about him because he came home later than he should have. Explains on how he helped All Might with a Sludge villain. Them being amazed, and Hitachi basically like being really happy that he got to meet his Izuku got to meet his idol finally, being excited. And Itachi and Inko, since they work together, Inko's starting to become getting up there the ranks, and she got to the fourth hero place, right under her husband. And then a few years pass. It's almost time for the what's it called again? I just lost my train of thought. The intro exam, or whatever you want to call it, for them to basically get into UA. They're doing it, and for this sake, we'll just say Inko and Hitachi didn't give him the VIP pass type deal. They're making him actually do the regular one like he did in canon. He aces basically the first one, but before he aces it, either talking about the robots on the list and all that, and then turns around saying, "You there with the ears and the tail, be quiet and stop interrupting." Azuku, being way smarter than Ida and being more clever about this, and says, "I'm not the one interrupting. If you insist, I'm not actually interrupting. I'm just talking to my friend, who we already know all about this, because my parents are the fourth and third best hero, and they already told me about all this. And if President Mike was to think I was interrupting, he would have stopped talking. He only stopped talking when you started talking, making you be the one that actually considered interrupting. And my name's Azuku Midoriya. And President Mike, I'm sorry about this boy right here. President Mike already knows who Azuku is. All of basically this school knows because of Inko and Hitachi Midoriya. Them knowing who they are, they kept talking about their son basically every time they talked to Nezu. Nezu's the one who recommended him for UA, like wanting him to do it. And that's how he got to get to do the UA stuff and all that. Like Nezu helped him and all that, learning on most of the stuff while his parents also helped. Nezu was we could say Nezu was basically watching over Izuku when his parents was at home. And like, he could go to Nezu's office and just chill there while his parents were doing a mission for Nezu, and he was learning all about what the heroes did, and also Azawa knows who Izuku is. Because Azawa and Izuku, they have a lot in common. Izuku's more basically laid back like Azawa, and more since Azawa likes to sleep, Izuku would just nap with him. They didn't really care. They just Azawa made Izuku like his own sleeping bag type deal, or got one for Izuku, and his was black as well. It wasn't like his, and it had like it was basically for a cat, like similar to a cat bed, but it would wrap around only leaving his head out. And by this age, Izuku can basically go the whole full panther, and he's also learning on how to change the panther's size to any size he needs it to be. But he can't go basically the size of an ant. He can go like the basically the teenager size of the panther, or the cub size, all the way up to basically like ginormous panther, like a third, 3/4 of the way to All Might. So basically almost up to All Might's, just basically almost up to his bottom of his chest, a little bit above it, size, making Azuku basically really, really big panther. And that's when All Might's in his hero form type deal, where he's basically all buff and all that. Not like Small Might in his scrawny little form and all that. So yeah, they're just napping, and the class gets in, noticing a panther head in a yellow sleeping bag with a black sleeping bag next to the yellow with the panther head coming out. And the pan we all know who the panther is. It's Izuku taking a nap with Azawa. Them sitting down in like amazement, and Bakugo coming in saying, trying to wake up Deku, well Izuku, saying, "Deku, wake up!" And then waking up Izuku, and Izuku says, "What? I'm trying to sleep." And says, "You know you're sleeping next to Eraserhead again, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I know. And I don't really care. Eraserhead's letting me sleep. I'm just gonna sleep." And he's sleeping, and Eraserhead wakes up, and like after a while, starts teaching the class. He knows Izuku very well, and sometimes Bakugo will hang out with them. Ozawa's basically like a trainer for Izuku, like help him train his quirk while his parents are home to train him. So Ozawa knows a decent bit about. He knows a lot about Izuku's quirk and all that. And they do the quirk assessment, and Izuku's still like sleeping, and then he woke up saying, "Oh yeah, I gotta do class." He goes back outside, and like he's not the first one down there. He's probably like the last, and he's basically getting changed, and they notice that he had an 8-pack, astonishing everyone. And Kirishima is like, "That's so manly. What is your training regimen?" And he explains that Izuku basically just trains with the third and the fourth heroes and Azawa, and sometimes All Might when All Might wants to help, like Azawa train me, and them being astonished, and then they finally realize, wait, Midoriya, oh, the Shadow Hero and the Panther Hero, you're their kid. And Midoriya's like, yep. And while they're just talking, they get out there, and let's just say Ruka never mentions about it, because Azawa says don't mention about the ceremony and all that. And they're basically just training, and they're doing all that they do in canon. Izuku being first up to throw, and them asking what's about to happen. Izuku throws the ball as far as he can, and using the shadow and controlling the shadow to get as far as he can as well. He throws it around the whole, let's say, just because he can do the shadow and control the shadow of the ball for a while, he throws the ball as hard and fast as he can, and he throws it around the earth, using the gravity of the earth as well to propel the ball. And he catches it when Azawa looks at the meter saying, "Hey, that's a new record. This time you went all around the world again." Like he did that twice with the world, and his highest record was doing it once. Just because he was able to control the shadow, make it propel, and using the gravity, helping with the gravity, the earth pulling it down, and the wind. Suzuku, he isn't a dumb person. He's actually really clever, and he knows a lot about the gravities propelling down and pushing the ball down. And he also learns about wave. He learns about the wind and how that could propel forwards, also knocking the baseball a bit further. And they see the ball go back once and then go around, and Izuku catches it the second time when it was about to go down onto the ground, gives it back to Ozawa, and just basically rest. And he does everything else. He just, at the end of it, while waiting for everyone, he just goes back to bed. And he just says, I was just joking about everyone basically if the last person would fail. And Mineta, I think his name was, the great boy, over there basically crying like he was terrified because he didn't even pass one of those, like at all. He came basically and lasted everything, even the basically the anything he could do, he failed. And so yeah, him basically crying about what happened, making everyone sign relief, like we passed. And they keep talking and training, and then Azawa a few days later says, "Come on, let's go." And let's just say All Might goes there and all that, does his thing, and Izuku and Haruka was on the hero team and all that. Everything stays the same, except they win really quickly instead of Izuku basically breaking his bones to protect himself. Bakugo never did his blast, so yeah, and Izuku was MVP, says Momo, and explaining why. I'm not going to go too deep a detail for that. Yeah, they get to the USJ, and Izuku, hearing the pearl open up, explains to Ozawa, and Ozawa gets Ida to run and get Amai and all that, while Izuku and him basically holds off and all that, holds off the enemies, and Izuku and Ozawa basically take an enemy down by enemy, making it hard for them, and no one's being warp gate because Kurogiri is basically just looking, trying to figure out who's stronger and what their weaknesses are before he opens the warp gate to separate everyone, to take them down. But they're just standing there in amazement, so he's like, they won't be too much of a threat, mister, sir, type deal. Like they're just standing there in amazement. And then, I can't remember, Krusty, basically, I'm gonna call him. I can't remember his name fully. Isn't it like Shikamaru or something like that? I think it's Shikamaru. The Decayverse man, basically seeing the Nomu after, he says, "Go get the Panther boy." He seems extraordinary. And while the Nomu's trying to basically catch, not trying to harm Izuku, just trying to catch him, Izuku jumps into the Nomu's shadow, making the Nomu basically immobilized, can't move, or anything. While Izuku's in there holding him still and canceling out any quirk he had, Azawa is basically pummeling the Nomu, taking out the Nomu, making the Nomu basically be knocked out, because they found out his weak spot is his brain. You hit the brain, he gets knocked out. Well, he's knocked out. Azuka jumps out, and they just continue pummeling the villains, while Shikamaru and Kurogiri goes and tries to leave. Azuku, being a lot smarter than them, jumps into Kurogiri's shadow, closing any portal that he was made, being stunned still, while Eraserhead is like canceling out Shikamaru's quirk, making it hard for him to basically use his quirk and decay anything. So Ozawa was trying to hold him still, and Kurogiri finally comes up with an idea to get them out. He tries to use at least his quirk that he can partially control now, that Azuku's holding, and he makes a gate underneath their feet, and that made Azuku jump out because the shadows they just go away if he makes the portal under them where the shadow basically gets cut. But Azuku, trying to basically look like he jumped out, tells us all what he had planned, and jumps through the portal and goes into Kurogiri's shadow and all that, basically being a spy and letting Kurogiri do his own movements. And while he's talking, no one notices that Azuku's in his shadow because Azuku's body was shaped like their regular shadow, and he doesn't come out or anything. But and then once he gets enough information off of him, he jumps out, and they basically being astonished on what he did. They see him bolt out in full panther form, right out to the bar, and him running, coming out of his panther form, taking a picture of the bar and what it looked like and its dedicated location, gets all the way back to UA, shows them all the heroes, and the heroes basically try to get there, but they try to get there, and Kurogiri has basically made a portal already, getting them out of there, making them have a new base, since they had a backup base if something happened. Well, them having to leave and trying to see if what else could happen, they didn't notice the TV was on, so they left, and all for one, seeing All Might again, seeing that he didn't have his successor yet, thinking that he could take him down now. But he doesn't do it. He waits and strategizes before he does anything. So TV turns off, and they're all gone, so they didn't know the TV turned off. And they get done with the USJ's basically incident's gone. The USJ, nothing really happens there too much anymore. They had to take all the people that they're not dead. They've just been like immobilized and knocked out. And if I remember correctly, the next thing's the sports festival. I'm not going to get into the sports festival. We can make that another episode and all that. But if you guys are new here, please give a like to this and a subscription if you guys want. I'm not forcing anyone, just so you guys know. Some people think doing the subscriptions costs money, but actually no, the subscriptions are free. So you can subscribe without having to spend money. And the next episode of this will probably be, let's say, today is, I can't remember. But not tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be having the Wolf Ice Deku will be made tomorrow. And the day after that will be this one again. So, yeah. Well, guys, see you in the next episode. Dark Wolf out.